I have friends everywhere. And now I have a new addition to my family right here of droids, the B1 Battle Droid. I'm going to let you know how I was able to print and assemble this entire droid in less than 3 days. That's one of my best for these large-scale droids. K2SO, he took 10 days, and I had to take a break in the middle there. So in all, this is one of my better builds. I'm excited to bring that to you from Droid Division, as well as anything else you might want to know. I'm going to let you know all about how to build this guy. Most of the droids you see here are from Droid Division. The pit droid down here that my daughter and I did in 24 hours is what it took for us to print, assemble, and paint that together. We've got R2-D2 over here from Mr. Battley. That's the only one that didn't come from Droid Division. And of course, K2 and the B1 from Droid Division as well. I'm going to walk you through everything that we did to be able to put this droid together in 3 days flat. So, come with your questions, let's talk soon, and we'll get you up to speed so you can print your own B1 Battle Droid in less than 3 days. I'm really excited to talk more about this droid specifically because it's one that everyone builds. And there's a lot of videos out there because of that, but first one to do it in 3 days? I don't know. So I want to get into the details here to really help you understand what I was able to do to bring this to life. I'll start from the head and we'll work our way down. So we'll be able to see all the parts that I did, why I did certain things, what I learned along the way. So if you're building one, you can go back and see why I did certain things. Now, one of the things I hope to be able to do is be able to provide all of my files in a 3MF format so that you can get in there, and when you download the Droid Division files, all you got to do is click, open, and hit print right there in Bamboo Studio. Because I run primarily Bamboos in here, you're able to do that as well. So look for those in the files. I can't guarantee that they'll be there at the time of watching, but it's something I'm working on doing with Droid Division to be able to provide these for ease of use, to be able to click and print just like I did as well. So let's get into some of the details about these things specifically, why I chose to do certain things, some of the things I did differently, and hopefully it'll help you out with your project too. Let's start up here at the head and work our way down from there. One thing I like to do with my prints is be able to only print in the material color that I have and not do it with any painting. So coming up with the eyes was a challenge that I had. I don't have a multi-tool head printer right now. So like the H2 from Bamboo or the XL from Prusa, to print something like this in a multicolor fashion is going to require a lot more waste and a lot more time using just these regular Bamboo printers here, which I don't want to be able to waste. So I found a video, which I'll link down below, that allowed me to take the eyes and extrude them out a little bit so that I was able to be able to print these eyes separate. That's something I have in the Droid Division Facebook group, but you can also, if I have my 3MF files posted, you'll see those as well. So it's nice to be able to take these small little inserts and print them separately and put them in. The other thing I learned here in putting this together is that these back parts right back here are very delicate. This has already fallen a couple of times, and twice these things have snapped off. I've had to glue those back on there. So you got to be very mindful of that. This head part here was not printed with any supports, but it did have the default supports that were put in here on one of the models on there. So I was able to take that and not have to put anything else in there as well. The screws, I was able to use a lot that I have already. I'll cover that more a little bit later when I get into the hardware, but the head was pretty easy. And it was actually the last thing I did because I still needed to figure out how to do these eyes, and I postponed that. So I built everything else and then forgot that part. But the head was pretty easy. I like how it's shaped. You can probably display this with ease. You'll see on here that these antennas are actually all 3D printed. So what I was able to do is I knew the exact dimensions I needed to get, and I took these antennas and just took a normal cylinder and I split it. I think I split each one into maybe 3 pieces or so, and then I glued it together. And it's not that hard to glue these things together if you have the right adhesive and glue, which again I'll cover a little later in the video, but it made it really easy for me to take these antennae and put them together. Some people have taken rods, but again, I don't like to paint. So rods were going to be a different color. So I didn't go get rods and I just took those things. This thing just sits on the back and pops off really easily. And also there's plenty of space if I wanted to add a backpack a little bit later with this backing right here so I can get in there and make adjustments if I need to do that. Comes off really easily, even with one hand here, so I can get in there and add anything in there, and you can see right here where the wood dowel is at. Now we're going to talk about the chest, and this is the only part that I have some regrets on. You can see right here some discoloration. And this was because I switched from one spool to the next probably 3 times. I was able to use a significant amount of filament, but also across multiple printers, it was basically 1 spool per printer. Well, this last piece was one of my largest, longest prints, so switching, I wanted to use up some of the spools. Even though I bought them from the same store, Elegoo, and I was able to take everything and put it in there. It looks to me like they're the same, but we don't see that here. So beware of that, especially when you're doing something like me who's printing in one color and you're not going to paint. You might get some discoloration if you're switching spools. So I would advise not doing that. If you're going to do shoulders, print the shoulders in the same spool and not do separate pieces. So a bit of a shame that this happened, but you know, it's okay. And in the right light, you can't even notice it, and it works out really well. So the chest here is my only part that I had an issue with as far as that goes. The shoulders are as is. You know, everything that comes across made it really easy. You know, these shoulders just pop off really easily if you need to do that. They do just hop up. I can almost do this one-handed here, and they've got the two large pegs that they sit on. Really easy to be able to put those together. I was very impressed with how easy these things just slid off and on. We've got on here the other arms and shoulders and how all these things come together. Fits very nicely with lots of different points. Let me do it on this side here, since I've got a blaster in the other hand. It twists really easily. So if you need to be able to certain pose, you got movement here. You've got movement in the shoulder as it goes around up here. You've got down here to be able to twist the forearm. You've got the hand or the elbow. You've got another part, this was for the arm that twists up here. And then over here, you got the forearm. And then you've got down here the wrist that moves and all the fingers. There are so many different ways to be able to make this work. So I was very impressed with how easy it is to pose this guy, to be able to put him in whatever position you want. And it's really easy to be able to access any of the different bolts to be able to put that together. Now let's move on to the blaster. This is a blaster that I actually did not get from Droid Division, but he does sell all of them. This is one I got from 3Demon, 3DEMON. This is something I buy a lot of props from because they're really easy to print and have a very extensive catalog. Not just Star Wars, but a lot of other things as well. Really easy to be able to put this together, and the instructions are quite clear with lots of blueprints. That's one of my favorites. Now, like I said before, this is very posable, but I have a really hard time being able to get it to hold the blaster the way I want to, and it's always a little awkward. So often it's just hanging and dangling. So while you can do a lot, it takes some time to be able to get it for a part like this to be able to hold things correctly. That's often why I have my droids holding lightsabers, because they're much lighter and easier to grip. Moving on down, let's take a look at the torso. When I was putting this together, I wasn't really sure why it needed to move so much, why it needed to have elastic in here, which we can actually see is tied off here at the top. I just used some elastic that I used for some other projects to be able to take this and fish it all the way through. This was a part that took a little bit more time to assemble because I had to have the right length. I had to be able to put those things together. The elastic, unfortunately, I don't remember how long it is. I didn't measure it in the end. I had to put it together, tie it off on one end, be able to see how it would work. That's the best way I found to do that, is tie those things off, and then you're going to be able to see how well it needs to be there. Well, the elastic is there simply so you can twist this around and you don't have any problems. So you twist it here in the hips. Again, very posable, so you can twist it without being so rigid. That's an ingenious way to be able to do all these things to make sure it all fits. So that's a great way to be able to put these things together to make sure that you're able to move this around as you need to do that. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the hips. This is the only part that is not connected to the rest of the body. I did this so I can easily take it apart if I need to. The head is the only other part that pops off, so right in here I can easily lift and remove that. The hips are all held together with ease, with no glue and without any screws as well. Everything just fits exactly the way it needs to, which is an excellent design. The legs are pretty straightforward in all that they do, and coming down through here. When I print everything, I usually start with the feet and work my way up so I can start seeing this droid grow. You'll see down here a little bit of the discoloration. This is going to be the wood dowel that's right there. I'll cover more about that wood dowel here in just a minute so you can see where I bought that from, but we got 3/4 inch dowel that runs through the entire legs and then up through the torso as well. You can see a little bit of it back there, but the legs are pretty easy. The most sturdy thing, most impressive part of these Droid Division builds is just how everything fits. It doesn't fall apart, doesn't tip over, they just fit all in place. So these legs start off there and you can get everything together so they fit, and then don't glue this to anything here so that you guys can lift it off and transport it if you need. Now I'm over at one of my workbenches. I want to cover some of the hardware and tools that I use to assemble everything. So of course I've got my bolts on here, my M6 bolts. I have these from previous projects. I think on this one I only had to buy this one. I think that's the only thing I had to buy because it needed some 70, 75, which I didn't have. And also you run into some projects where you might have enough 35s for one project, 2 left over, and the next project you need 2 more. So I had to buy a few more. In all, it's not too bad, as well as, you know, a lot of the cap bolts that you have on here, or the furniture bolts. I don't have those right here in front of me, but I did use those as well. Pretty easy to be able to use. Also, right here, the only other hardware that I had was this wood dowel. I did not use metal. I've used wood for all of my projects, and they work really well. It keeps it lighter, and it's, for me, just as strong. It's worked with all of my droids. I've been able to transport them with no problems. This is 3/4 inch wood dowel, and I bought it here for a few bucks. I'll cover a little later all my cost breakdowns, but you can see it's really easy and cut very nicely and slipped in perfectly. 3/4 inch, not 1 inch, 3/4 inch in order to get things to fit. This is what I use normally for cutting and ripping off any of my I use this on all my projects here. Just these flat edges right here makes it very easy to be able to cut. This is the bread and butter that I learned with all of my stuff. I changed over. I buy things in bulk for all of my glue. I now get things in very large quantities right here, and I'm able to take this from Glue Masters, fill these little bottles, these little nozzles. Yeah, they get clogged on occasion, but I can clear those out pretty easily, or just buy more for 10 bucks, and I can get another dozen. Also, this affix here, this fast bonding, if you are not using this to assemble your 3D projects, you are falling behind. I learned this a couple years ago, and where was it? I wish I had it earlier. You simply put glue on one end, you spray this on the other end, push it together, and seriously, as it says, bonds within seconds, it does. So check your dry fit. Make sure everything fits exactly the way it should. Otherwise, you're not getting those parts a pack. Ryobi back here, I've got this here. This is my heater, my heat gun that I use for stringing. I don't think I had any on this project, but you can imagine it can happen on occasion. I don't have it with me, but I have my Ryobi drill that I used for all of these bolts, which made it really easy to be able to put things together and simply screw them all in place with my right adapters. If you have any questions about this, I'll make sure I can answer those for you. I'll try to put links to a lot of these. I won't put links to this because I find that these are made by so many different people. You say, like, look at this. Benefimux, Nilam Bao, Sikadorai. Like, these are just made up Chinese company names. They go out of business. They change names all the time. A link expires really quickly. So I don't post these, but I can have it to all these other parts, as they're pretty standard things that you're going to find very often. Let's take a look at some of the files and how I have this all organized. I've got lots of different projects I've worked on. So here, just looking at this one, what we're looking at here is going to be our B1 Battle Droid and how I put everything together. Thankfully, Droid Division has some great file management already. I was able to come in here and grab everything I needed. My pre-production work, as I call it, of just finding everything and throwing them on my projects here in Bamboo Studio didn't take a long time because everything was there. The other really nice thing is the documentation on here. It's fantastic, which was recently updated here as of July 2025. With some great stuff in here to be able to find everything you needed. So it was great. The step-by-step is fantastic with Droid Division. Did not have a problem assembling, which also meant it was really easy to figure out what I needed to print, how many parts needed to be mirrored. That's my only complaint with these, is I kind of wish we had feet that were labeled left-right. I didn't have any problems with this, but on my earlier projects, I did print things the wrong direction, or I printed too many of the ones in different directions. Whatever it might be, it would be nice to have right and left, but it's clearly lined out in the instructions what needs to be done. So all of my files are very easily organized to be able to find everything, and then I have them all inserted right here into my Bamboo files. If I can get these loaded up for other people to use, it will be as simple as simply clicking and loading things up in your slicer, so that you can then print with the exact same settings that not only that are recommended by Droid Division, but are also that I used as well. So all of those tips here that were provided here in the printing tips section, I followed as well by making sure I'm using about 3 walls, etc. And as well as I adjusted a lot of the infill, knowing that you don't need to go all the way up to 20% on some parts. You can go down to 8% on other parts. I matched that so that you guys can be able to use those same settings. And so when you click on these things and pull these things up, you'll be able to start using those things as well with the same settings that I use to be able to have just as much success. Let's go ahead and open up some of these files right here so that we can see how they come across in the slicer. So I have 6 different project files right here for Bamboo Studio, and as we open them up, everything's listed out here with all of the settings that I used. Again, as I pointed out, I have the exact same settings that are recommended, globally 3 walls, and then some of these parts I have set by object in certain things with certain settings based on support in certain areas. Again, this is what makes it easy with my Bamboo Studio files, is I've already done the hard work for you. So when you need to come in here and look at a certain file, everything is already pre-supported. Everything already has it exactly where I had it that I found to work. If I find it didn't work very well after I printed it, I made adjustments. So you're learning from my mistakes. Orientation as well, it's where it needs to be so that everything prints right where it is at and doesn't over fit any of your print beds. This one took a little while just to make sure that the print area was within, or the supports were within the print area, so everything fit the way it was supposed to. Again, print, easy, click, as easy as that. You can see some of my antennas right here, how I took a rod and I split it so that I could print it, and it makes it really easy to be able to print that as well because I've got brims on here, or no, rafts, so everything printed really well for me. I didn't have any problems with these. They did not fall over with a little bit of glue. I was able to put things together in place as well. So all of my files are going to be just like this. So it doesn't matter which one you open up. If I used it with certain settings, you're going to have those settings as well. So some of these are really easy, and you have them where they are set as the default based on the recommendations from Droid Division. So here's this part here, no supports needed. Everything worked out well. This already has a support built into it that simply broke away with ease. I didn't worry about these overhangs right here. I know tolerances or my limits of these Bamboo printers. That's just fine. I don't need to worry about it. Could I? Sure. But honestly, it was no big deal. Everything worked out exactly the way I needed to. Other things, as far as any rafts go, I'm going to have those listed out here. Any supports that are in there, you're going to have that. If it doesn't have supports, I didn't need supports. Again, you're learning from my mistakes. If I printed and had an issue, came back into the files, and I saved it. If I find that something needed supports, I would add it. If it didn't, like this part right here, yeah, we have some overhangs. It printed just fine. No big deal. Bamboo printers are just fantastic in what they need to do. You don't need to have supports everywhere you see blue for an overhang. So keep that in mind. Very easy. Just open these things up accordingly. You're going to have everything you need to just slice the file. And when you're ready for it, you can go ahead and export it to your printer from there. Lastly, I want to go over all of my cost and my time and how this all worked out for me to print this thing in 3 days. Let me start over here on the right by just looking at all the things that I used for my costs. My Elegoo Wood Brown. This is the best filament that I found I could buy. And thankfully, you can buy it directly from Elegoo for in 10 kilo bunches at $105. $105 is a fantastic way to come up with things. Now, 105 divided by 10 is $10.50 per spool. Where are you going to find such a great deal on great quality filament like this? This is where I'm getting it. This is what worked out for me. I looked at some other colors to see what I want to do. This other brown's a little too dark for me, but for my project, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure I needed something that wasn't too bright like this beige, not too dark, but one right in the middle, this wood color brown. That means I could get the whole thing and do it here at $10.49, which of course was an upfront cost, but overall it's going to only cost me $75.97 in filament because it's only using 7.2 spools. Great, math is wonderful, right? So let's go over this and see what we did here. We see $75.97 is what we did on that filament. On each of these projects, we can see the total amount of filament used right here in the B column. So 7,242 grams, 7.2 spools. We can see which project ended up taking the most or the least, and then the total cost associated with that as well. Be in one color, it's really easy to figure out. Some people ask me on my other Droid builds, how much of this or that color for this part? This one's easy because it's all one color for me, so it's not a big deal. Apart from the eyes, which are a very small, negligent amount of black, I did not include that on here just because it was such a small amount, but so nonetheless here, just looking at the wood brown, I just rolled that all in there for the eyes as well. Hardware on here, I got all of my M6 cap bolts from Amazon. I don't have links because I find that those links expire because these Amazon sellers are all changing things all the time. But what's listed here in the documentation for all of these furniture bolts, barrel nuts, and cap nuts, you can get from anywhere on Amazon, all across the world. Yeah, you can buy AliExpress, but you can get these things delivered next day, at least here in America, on Amazon. I had most of these already because I've built other droids, but there's some like the the 75 or 70 millimeter bolts, I maybe only had 2 of those, and I needed a couple more in order to finish the project. So I ordered a few more there. Same with my barrel nuts. I don't use those very often. I had a lot of cap nuts because the last set that I had a lot of cap nuts. So add these all up to figure out how many that you're going to need, and that'll let you know if you can get that in a single set or if you need to buy another set or supplement it with just a couple other bolts there. For me, I only had to buy a little bit. The total cost here for everything added up generally is going to be around $35. I'm assuming you're going to be able to do the same. Wood rods I got from Home Depot at $13.04 for 2 rods that I then split to my associated cuts. So overall, my total costs here are going to be $124.54. That's all my hardware. That's all of my filament that I purchased as well. Again, upfront cost was a little bit more just because of all that, but if I look at just what I used, that's great, and I can roll that into other projects. Now, my total time, put this all together, if you add all of this here, how many does this come out to be? And what we're looking at is 3 days, 93 minutes, or 93 hours and 195 minutes. Do some fancy math. That's 7 days, 0 hours and 15 minutes. So essentially, if you had one printer, you could go through this entire thing, and all 51 print plates for 137 parts, it's going to take you 7 days and 15 minutes nonstop. But that means you're setting your prints at 10 p.m., you're waking up at 2 a.m. to change things out. It's really just not worth it. So it's going to take you more than 7 days on a single printer. That's why I have 10 printers. It really speeds this up. Per printer for me, printed about 16 hours and 50 minutes. That's not an equal thing because it wasn't all 137 parts weren't exactly the same. We know that. So I'm just averaging things out here that on average, it took me 16 hours and 50 minutes per printer across my 10 printers, some longer, some shorter. We get it. 168 total print hours. For me, it took me about a day and a half of print time. So of course, I'm not waking up at 4 in the morning to change out print parts. So instead, rounding up from there from 16 hours here to, closer to say 36 or so, and then building out that and putting it together, just a few hours to do so. That's why I was able to build this in about 3 days total print and assembly time. If you start the stopwatch, that's how I worked it out, even sleeping in there as well. So anyway, for your average person, 7 days. I would round that up to say 10 days, maybe even 12 days, knowing if you want to get some sleep in there. But nonetheless, that's how I was able to figure things out for my total costs, for my filament, my hardware, and my total time as well. Thanks for coming with me along on this adventure. You can see this isn't a very hard build, which is why a lot of people choose to do this as their first droid. Droid Division does a fantastic job putting these things together, and makes it easy for you to do that too. Hopefully this video is of help for you. If you have as many printers as I do, you can fly through this and do it in 3 days as well. If not, hey, that's okay. You've got good opportunity to be able to build a whole lot of these things on your own across a few days. If I'm able to get my 3MF files uploaded, you'll find those in Droid Division. Make sure you support them there through Patreon or directly through their website, and even Etsy as well, and you can do everything you can to be able to put this together. Links down below. Let me know what questions you have so I can help you on your B1 Battle Droid project as well. Thanks everyone.